here on the left, Jack Wong, a player who has not seen too much of the light. This is his best finish far and beyond at this point. Just the top 64 earlier in 2025-2026 season at Milwaukee. Also off to a 128 at Pittsburgh. So really locking in this season, putting in some time, it seems, to the game, and looks like it's starting to pay off.
Yeah, and Giovanny Sasso on the other side, one of those players that aged up last year, just like Karis on the other side of the bracket, and had such a great finish. You know, the 2024 Buenos Aires as a special event champion, or finalist, sorry, won the Lima Special Championships, and then also finalist out of regionals, and had great runs in seniors as well, making a couple top 8s at ICs.
Yeah, completely different deck. Nowhere near playing that Gardevoir. That was back the Terrapagos deck with the double turbo energy. So lots of things have changed, and this is really the true testament to these players' skills are being able to pick up different decks, not one trick. You have multiple routes in terms of being successful in the Pokemon TCG. Our judges are ready as well at the table. We'll make sure everything is going smoothly. I recognize those faces, so I expect no hiccups from them over on that side. Let's take a look at the prize cards here and note anything super relevant. This Gardevoir deck is playing that Latias EX we discussed earlier, that Skyliner ability allowing free retreat. And it looks like these Latias are kind of staring each other down from the prizes here. They're both not going to be able to provide a little bit of assistance to their partner Pokemon.
Yeah, I feel like we keep seeing the Latias prize for the Dragapult Dusknoirs. It's been so many times at this point. And we're going to see if it comes up. I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on those energies for the Dragapult side, but it's also important for the Gardevoir, as they can't get into Frillish as easily if they are going second without that Latias.
And here we go. We are ready to kick things off. Top 4 here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It will be Dragapult Dusknoir starting off the turn. And it's just going to be an attachment in the past, so wow, no Dreepy down turn number 1. And Giovanni also starting the Mew is going to open up a lot of options in terms of what attack he wants to use on this first turn.
Yeah, starting the Mew makes up for that Latias being prized, can retreat instantly into Frillish and get that Oceanic Gloom, which is going to hurt Jack's up so much without that turn 1 Buddy Buddy Poffin, no Dreepies, only 1 Duskull. Jack is going to be on the back foot immediately, and we did see Jack actually had a Budew in hand and chose not to bench it, interestingly. So if Giovanni has to play an Iono this turn, Jack may be missing the item lock on his next turn.
Yeah, and this is the version of the deck. We featured a lot of Technical Machine Evolution builds so far on the stream. Piper, you talked us through that build very, very well. Tell us about some of the differences between this non-TM Evolution deck, the one that really focuses more on not just Frillish, but that Jellicent EX as well.
Yeah, this one is really reliant on the Jellicent line, only playing 2 Ralts and 1 Kirlia, so Technical Machine Evolution doesn't really flow well with the deck. And because of that, you get a lot more space to play cards like the Mega Diancie EX, an extra Stadium. As we see, Giovanni is taking that Team Rocket's Watchtower, which is something that can come up in this matchup in those late game scenarios, preventing the Blood Moon Ursaluna from reducing its energy cost in the attack.
So just taking the opportunity off this first search. Is an Ultra Ball played, and one of those rare candy does hit the discard pile, understanding Budew is going to be, more than likely the early game options for Jack to try and slow things down, and the battle of the item locking capabilities will be one important factor to note. Like you mentioned, the Mew EX does provide free retreat, and it is that beautiful Bubble Mew as well in the active spot. Almost didn't recognize. We haven't been able to showcase too much good art, but that is definitely one of my favorites from Paldean Fates.
Yeah, and the retro rare candies. Always a fan of those older rare candy arts. I'm personally a fan of the Diamond Pearl ones, but...
Yeah, that's fair, that's fair. Yeah, I know a lot of people love those EX series ones as well. I definitely love a good mixture. I did play these for some recent tournaments, so yeah, we're getting all the bling coming out here. That beautiful Frillish as well. And like you mentioned, item block already on the table as long as there's a Psychic Energy, which I have to imagine is in the hand, thanks to 1 being discarded from that Ultra Ball.
Yeah, the item lock is really important to establish here, as Giovanni, again, with that 2-1-2 line of Gardevoir, isn't able to find them as aggressively under Jack's Itchy Pollen. So you really need to buy as much time as possible and try to slow down the Dragapult opponent, get rid of all their Budews using Oceanic Gloom so that they can't recover their Budews and eventually break the lock and then rare candy into Gardevoir.
So just shuffling up does indicate we probably won't see the ideal supporter card here, that Lily's Determination, at least right away on this turn. Never know if you can thin the hand down, maybe with Mew EX and try and draw some cards off restart. So let's see what the rest of the hand has in store. And yeah, it's going to be an Iono. So Jack, not having any Dreepies in hand, not showing much strength on this first turn, is going to get to see a fresh hand of 6. That guy wanted to come out right away. The Dreepy, maybe not a welcome visitor as of right now, but he just said hello and popped right out of the deck.
Yeah. Real quick, though, Giovanni didn't attach an energy before that Iono, meaning he discarded the energy without having a second one. And looking quickly at the Iono cards he drew, I don't know if I saw one there, so he may not be able to Oceanic Gloom this turn. And it's kind of that thing where while the judges are figuring out this bit about the Dreepy, you kind of have to wonder, is it worth it to get that extra energy in the discard, which can be difficult to do under Itchy Pollen, at the cost of not shutting down your opponent's items?
So we will get everything resolved at this point. It's interesting to note where that Dreepy flew from the deck from. It felt like it was from the middle, not from that stack. So, you know, judging what typical things would look like, it would technically be an extra card drawn or a card exposed from the deck. So we'll have to see exactly what the appropriate prize penalty is in a spot like this. Again, we've got two of the brightest and greatest working back at the judging table. So we'll unfortunately have to pause. But like you mentioned, Piper, getting a little bit risky and trying to prioritize those energy discards early on can sometimes backfire. It is that double-edged sword, right? Because it just becomes so much more difficult to get those energy in the discard pile if it's not from a item card that you're going to be shut off early on in the game.
Yeah, it looks like they're separating the Iono cards from the deck now just to put the Dreepy back into the deck, so that obviously we don't want those cards from Iono to get shuffled into the deck, as they are supposed to be at the bottom. So, and now it looks like the deck is being shuffled, and we'll see if there's any penalty issued, but it seems like everything has been fixed.
Yeah, of course, number one thing before penalties is to make sure that board state gets, you know, reverted exactly to where it is. So.
Yep.
And now, yeah, it looks like missed the energy card there. So like you said, getting a little bit greedy, not paying off. And now Jack's hand, which would have been almost completely stuffed if there was just a single energy card, it's going to allow him to play this Ultra Ball and get a Dreepy into play. Yeah,
unfortunately his hand isn't that strong anyways, but yeah, if we got item lock here, there would be no Dreepy, no Dracloak next turn to draw any cards, and Giovanni would get to a super commanding position, potentially starting to get a Gardevoir in play, but Giovanni didn't even get a Ralts down after that Iono. A really weak turn one for going second.
And a bit of an awkward Ultra Ball. Does have to get rid of one of those Jamming Tower. We've seen how crucial that Stadium card can be in this matchup. And this is now the first deck search for Jack. So we'll get to note that that Latias EX is in the prize cards, as well as a couple other pieces like that Boss's Orders as well. We'll just immediately grab the Dreepy. So just doing a quick little scan, not too long. And after this energy attachment here, we're probably just going to see a pass, which importantly also means no item lock back over on Giovanni's side either.
Yeah, so while Giovanni missed the Ralts last turn, he's going to have abilities to the ability to Ultra Ball or Nest Ball to find those Ralts without giving Jack the Artisan. But Jack going with a Mind Bend here, just starting to put damage on the Mew EX.
Yeah, it would allow this Frillish, if it didn't have a Bravery Charm, to get KO'd back, but now putting damage on the board seems like it may just be benefiting Giovanni in this position.
Yeah, on the bright side, I mean, Giovanni has to attach the Psychic to Frillish if he wants to Oceanic Gloom this turn, which he's not going to be setting up a Monkey Dory immediately, but it is something to look out for in the coming turns. And we may see another Mind Bend here, as it will force the Frillish to be evolved or to flip to keep the item lock up. So Jack is just trying to get to a point where he can buy some time, maybe draw into a Lily's Determination, even with two prized, and get out of this kind of difficult situation.
Second Ultra Ball being played for Giovanni. It's going to grab the Ralts, and there is the Lily's Determination. So now shuffling in the hand, drawing 8 cards since Giovanni is at 6 prize cards remaining. And yet again, looking for that Psychic Energy and looking for a way to try and threaten that turn 2 Gardevoir after putting a Ralts into play. We saw 1 rare candy discarded. Giovanni is playing the 3 rare candy in the deck, and we haven't seen any prized. So those will be available, and with how many cards he gets to draw through the deck, very possible if there's no item lock, we see Gardevoir come into play next turn.
Yeah, with cards like Arven and Secret Box, there's a lot of ways you can have none of the pieces, just have like a Secret Box, and Secret Box for the rare candy and an Arven for Ultra Ball, and get all these pieces kind of out of nowhere. And a Vessel is really good to start getting more energies in this card and get that Oceanic Gloom online this turn. So we will see Ultra Balling 2 more Psychics. So I'd imagine Giovanni has a 3rd Psychic, getting that Curlia to play around Jack, drawing into an Itchy Pollen out. And if he has a Gardevoir EX in hand, can slowly start to get into the Gardevoir.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, that 3rd Psychic Energy in the hand, so 3 in the discard pile. 1 will be hitting the board. Can't evolve that, unfortunately. It's not how the Pokemon TCG works. No broken time space, unfortunately. So Mew EX will retreat, does keep that 60 damage on it, and the Frillish hits with an Oceanic Gloom. So thanks to that Bravery Charm, it's not being threatened by a KO, but it will slowly start to take some damage here, as Jack does find an interesting pair of cards, Hilda and Dreepy. This is a tough decision.
Yeah, it's really difficult. You could take this Hilda and threaten a Neo Upper plus Dragapult attack next turn, or you could take this Dreepy, and then if you draw another Dracloak, you see 2 more cards next turn. Now, taking this Hilda is a little greedy, because if Giovanni does have that Rare Candy Gardevoir, which he didn't present that he had by grabbing this Curlia, he could Scream Tail and knock out this lone Dracloak, and then you have this Hilda in your hand, and it's not really doing much. even though the item lock's broken, you're still not really getting any value from it. And it looks like Jack decides to go with the Dreepy, and interestingly going with a Curse Blast, probably on this Frillish, as with the Adrenabrain. Oh, knocking out the Ralts.
Oh, wow, yeah, can just take the full Ralts out of play. A little bit of an obscure line. We usually don't see Monkey Dory come in and, you know, be powered up this early on in the game. But yeah, using this Curse Blast, making sure that this Dracloak stays active, or rather is not knocked out during this next turn. And yeah, did grab that Dreepy, but it does make me wonder a bit here. If you knew you were going to not be threatened by Rare Candy Gardevoir, would just grabbing Guaranteed Dragapult EX have been slightly better for this next turn?
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. I think Jack is just prioritizing having more draw potential, as Giovanni is now an extra turn behind now, whiffed Ralts turn 1, and now his Ralts got KO'd. So now it's going to be still 2 more turns till the Gardevoir is threatening, so Jack's just trying to prioritize drawing cards so that he has a stronger board for when the Ionos start coming from Giovanni. And here Giovanni's kind of in an awkward spot where he doesn't really want to attack with this Frillish on a coin flip, and then it'll get knocked out from a Mind Bend, but he's down 3 Ultra Balls already, so it's going to be really difficult to find this one of Jellicent.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like, what choice do you have? Even if you flip heads and you hit this Monkey Dory for 20 damage, you're still in range of being KO'd back. The 60 plus the 20 damage moved over, so with your opponent only having 2 cards, Piper, do you omit taking that risk and just essentially ensuring that your opponent's going to have to find Dragapult EX if they want to, you know, take a prize card this turn?
Yeah, it looks like Giovanni did find that one of Jellicent EX, so he's probably going to evolve just to keep that item lock in play. And if Jack wants to get access to items again, he's going to have to use Boss's Orders, which means he's not using Iono or Lily, so not progressing much, and is able to start pressuring that Monkey Dory with a bit of damage if he chooses. But we're still in this spot where Jack can just move 30 damage to Jellicent and Mind Bend again, and Giovanni's kind of in that same awkward spot he was this turn, where your Jellicent's now at 150 damage and it's confused. You don't want to attack with it again because it's on a coin flip, and then it gets knocked out all of a sudden at 180, and then move 30 more, and another Mind Bend.
A huge opportunity now presenting itself thanks to Recon Directive, found Boss's Orders, and has Ultra Ball in hand. So if Jack wants to, he could take 3 prize cards this turn, target the Mew down with Boss's Orders, and then Adrenabrain 30 damage to that Ralts and KO it. And I have to wonder, that would put Jack down to just 2 prize cards here, and a super aggressive line is just going to pay off in this spot.
Absolutely. And on the next turn, you still have damage on that Monkey Dory to move to the Jellicent, and then it'll be in range of knockout from the Dragapult attack. Jack is off to a really good start here. Probably going to be able to close out the game in the next few turns if Giovanni doesn't put together a response. And it's going to be really difficult, too, without any Monkey Dory setup, no Ralts.
Yeah, and it's going to be perfect math here as well. You know, you could even just move those 2 damage counters. If you just put this Jellicent up to 70, the Monkeys would negate itself next turn, and you would still be at perfect math to KO with Phantom Dive. And I really think this game 1 might just be chalked.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with Jellicent in play, though, and that Dreepy having no energies, Giovanni may be able to countercatcher Iono and buy some time. So there are some ways to get back in, but it does look like Giovanni is only playing 1 countercatcher. So maybe a little difficult to find that, but a Secret Box would get all those pieces.
Yeah, would need to find that Secret Box. This would definitely be the time for that card. Monkey Dory with the Dark Energy would also be more than a nice spot to have here, too. And there is that Iono, so step 1 is done. We are disrupting the hand here. Jack will be put down to just 2 cards. So Giovanni does find the Secret Box, so okay. Like you mentioned, Piper, this is a potential line. If there's a Dark Energy there as well, Giovanni could still stay on the aggressive. Target down that Monkey Dory, instead take a KO, and now that Jellicent would be out of range from a Phantom Dive.
Yeah, that seems like the best way to play this now. Yeah, healing the damage. And then you also have this Monkey Dory setup, so that next turn, if you draw incredibly well, you could have the Rare Candy Gardevoir, but here's Giovanni going to knock out the Dreepy potentially, or just trying to buy time.
Yeah, might
maybe not having a Dark Energy.
Yeah, may not have the Dark Energy or the counter catcher. Just need to have one of those pieces in hand.
Yeah.
Could still dig through the deck, though, which is interesting. We haven't seen something like Pheasantipity's Flip the Script ability be used yet. That is still the potential to dig through the deck. Instead, considering just putting more energy cards onto this Jellicent. It is only dealing the base 80 damage right now. It would not be doing the boosted 80 if it has an additional 2 energies. So 4 total in its attack.
But it looks like he's using Secret Box here, getting rid of that Psychic Energy instead of attaching it. Grabbing Nest Ball, Garden. Probably going to be ways to refill the hand. Nest Ball for something like the Pheasantipity to draw some cards, and then Garden to get another Psychic in the discard. Grabbing the TM Devo here.
Could grab Vessel, and that would allow him to draw the most amount of cards possible, right? You commit the Dark Energy for your turn. So this is really interesting.
Has the lilies for next turn, too.
Yeah, and this was actually, counter catcher was played before the Secret Box, right? So if he wanted to, he could have KO'd this Monkey Dory here, so we'll have to see what Giovanni's cooking.
Yeah, and there's a Dark Energy, so... Seems like a bit of a misstep there in the sequencing. Could have waited on that counter catcher. Having it in the hand, since we didn't use Mystery Garden, isn't going to affect anything. So could have waited and then potentially taken out the Monkey Dory instead. But at the same time, then you're guaranteed to allow the Dragapult to attack another turn. Whereas this play maybe traps the Dreepy for a turn, but also just loses the game to Latios or any energies.
Yeah, like you mentioned, just going to try and go for some sort of a passing strategy.
Yep.
So as it stands right now, these Monkey Dory are essentially just throwing equal damage back and forth. Someone said throwing bananas yesterday as a terminology for using Adrena Brain, so I'm going to coin that one as of recent. And yeah, Jack having nothing here is just going to pass the turn back over. So Giovanni now with an opportunity after being given an extra time to slowly start to build back this board and maybe make a comeback in this game.
Absolutely. If he's able to get a second Monkey Dory out, he may be able to move 6 damage to the bench Monkey Dory, but I believe one's in the discard and one's in the prize cards. So we'll see. Jack here is just counting those Psychic Energies, see what's kind of available in terms of attacks, as there are 2 on the Jellicent that are not trapped, but as long as there's no Guardian play, they're kind of in an awkward spot right now.
So it will be that Lily's Clefairy, so Fairy Zone now available, and like you mentioned, that one counter catcher is being used, so additionally, you know, we're slowly mounting a comeback, but we also have no way to gust this Dragapult EX to the active spot, so it feels like we're, you know, still slowly just accepting that Phantom Dive eventually, plus a boss's orders, is just going to win the game outright.
Yeah, I also believe Giovanni had to discard a second rare candy off the Secret Box. I may be wrong, but that's going to make it really difficult to get into this Gardevoir at some point. And also, with a Monkey Dory in discard and in prizes, he may not even be able to get a double monkey.
He's just the goat.
Yeah,
just the
Candy Guardy.
Yeah. Cut the yapping. He's already the goat. He just has it like that.
Yeah.
Wow, rare Candy Gardevoir. So some avenues are opened up now. You know, you can't really apply pressure again to the Dragapult. It is, of course, a Terra Pokemon, so you can't snipe it on the bench with something like Scream Tail. So with that being said, what is the attack of choice here if you're Giovanni? Do you try and Frillish? It looks like it's going to be going after the Monkey Dory instead.
Yeah. Definitely an interesting decision. Potentially trying to eventually amass enough damage onto this Dreepy that it gets knocked out and Jack is forced to promote the Dragapult. But we'll see if breaking this item lock is going to be too detrimental for Giovanni, as taking a knockout this turn also opens Jack to having Nest Ball for Pheasantipity, or Ultra Ball for Pheasantipity, and also Ultra Balls for Dracloak. There's so many more outs now that items are available for Jack.
Yeah, and Giovanni still needs to take 4 prize cards.
Yeah.
You know, not out of the woods just yet. He's got a lot more work to do to close this game out, and yet again, just has no way to touch this Dragapult EX. Especially with the bench being filled, it means you can't even double Adrena Brain to open that spot back up. So interesting position as it stands, but yeah, look at this. Jack is sitting on absolutely nothing in the hand. Dragapult EX, Blood Moon Ursaluna, and 2 Buddy Buddy Poffins. So we could get Pokemon here on the bench, but unironically here, Piper, I'm not opposed to the idea of just not putting anything on the bench at all, because you may just allow Dragapult EX to come up unscathed and make an attack.
Well, one of the issues with that is if it comes up on Giovanni's turn, then the Lily's Clefairy is there to just knock it out in one shot. So maybe getting just a Dreepy, but the Duskull pressure is also nice.
Sure.
And the Dreepy means that if the active gets knocked out, you have Dracloak still as outs. So I definitely like getting at least 1 Dreepy, but maybe this is a little too much benching here with Giovanni at 4 prizes.
I was saying mainly waiting a turn. You know, Turo is always a threat, and maybe that's a risk you are a little bit afraid of. But it's still going to take 2 turns of Adrena Brain to KO this Dreepy in the active spot. Now Giovanni doesn't even need that this turn. Can just take this opportunity to use Scream Tail and take another prize.
Absolutely. Probably going to target that Duskull, as it seems to be one of the more scary things, as if you knock out a Dreepy, there's still 2 more Dreepies. But knocking out the Duskull, there's no more Duskull. So while Jack may somehow be able to find 3 Dracloaks from this pretty bad hand right now, it's relatively unlikely, so knocking out the Duskull is probably the safest bet for Giovanni here. And he does have an Iono in hand, which is something he has to consider playing, but may just want to not do that, as he knows Jack doesn't have an out to Pheasantipity or an out to Dracloak. So it's kind of that balance of making sure you prioritize yourself, like your own board, but not giving cards to your opponent to help them get back into the game.
Yeah, knows that Jack is at best working with 1 out maybe to draw some cards, maybe sitting on you know, a Dusclops of some sort, but that won't matter with Duskull going down this turn. So Giovanni's stall tactic slowly working, and Jack does find that Luminous Energy from the top of the deck, so Dreepy can now move out of the active spot. And this is that situation I was talking about where, you know, if this Pokemon moved a little bit differently, you know, this game could definitely have played out in a bit of a different fashion. Is actually just going to pass the turn over, so not even allowing, you know, a potential snipe play to happen using damage counters from that Phantom Dive, just accepts that Lillious Clefairy would just knock this Pokemon back out and is going to hope to try and find a boss's orders on the next turn.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to find a boss here, as if you treat this Dreepy, it gets knocked out from Monkey Dory, and Lillious Clefairy knocks out the Dragapult, so then you just lose the game on the spot since Giovanni is at 3 prizes. So Giovanni here opts to take a prize card, which pressures game on the next turn, but also gives Pheasantipity as an out to Jack. And Jack just drew a counter catcher, so...
Yeah, this is a weird spot. As it stands, though, Giovanni could just pass on the following turn and then set up the win, and that was sort of one of the risks of benching this many Pokemon in this spot.
Well, Giovanni just has win because he can move 30 to the active and then Screamtail the Dreepy, and Jack notices that and just concedes.
Yeah, all done like that, and what a comeback here from Giovanni in game number 1.
Yeah, what an interesting game. I mean, Jack had such a rough start, like not benching any Pokemon at the start, then only having one Dreepy, one Dracloak, finding that second Dreepy, but Giovanni kept struggling to keep that Ralts in play. But through all that aggression, Jack didn't have any draw on his board, so Giovanni, with Item Lock and Iono, was able to buy some time and finally get that Gardevoir in play and a Monkey Dory and take all of his prizes.
That's probably the best comeback we've seen all weekend here. Absolutely well played by Giovanni. Could have gone after the Monkey Dory and KO'd, but instead really relying off the disruptive power of Iono. And yeah, Jack was unable to find any way to move Dreepy until it was just too late, and there was too much damage wiped off the board thanks to his own Monkey Dory on Giovanni's side. Yeah,
Monkey Dory really showing how great of a card it is. Both players using it to a crazy extent, building up so much damage and making these multi-prize turns possible and putting so much pressure on the opponent's board. Jack was unable to attack with that Dragapult because he'd lose otherwise.
Yeah, this early game was all Jack, though. Really got in aggressive and used that Monkey Dory and put so much pressure on Frillish, but it really was that Jellicent EX. It removed that confusion, applied pressure to the Monkey Dory, and then from there, just bringing this Dreepy up, and Jack just gave enough Pokemon in play for Giovanni to start sniping with Screamtail. It was a bit of an awkward spot either way, but an absolutely well-managed comeback from Giovanni.
Absolutely, yeah. We saw Jack bench all these Pokemon, and if he didn't have them, the active would just get knocked out from an Adrenabrain, and then Lillious Clefairy would knock out that Dragapult. So it wasn't too much of a difference maker, but definitely looked not great in how Giovanni ended up winning the game.
Sure, either way, not a great situation for Jack. Was just disrupted too hard from the Iono. His start was solid, and Giovanni really faltered to get Ralts out, but you know, Jack also just didn't have that backbone of Dracloak as well in play to prevent something like this from happening.
Yeah, but you can't blame him for playing aggressive there. I mean, once Gardevoir gets his Gardevoirs out, the Clefairy, the Mew, Pheasantipity, it's just so hard to come back from that kind of board as Dragapult, so just trying to get through the game really quickly. Unfortunately, Giovanni did have the right answers at the right time.
So we'll see this game play out. Game number 2, Giovanni will be going first, so big advantage to Jack. We didn't get to see that early disruptive power of Pidoo, so don't count that out by any means. Also see these prize cards, very relevant, of course, knowing what pieces are available, what pieces are unavailable. As we get into things here, game number 2, Giovanny Sasso, a star-studded young player, is now just one game away from making a Masters Division Finals at a regional here in North America, in the US.
Yeah, it's awesome to see how international regionals have become. We have players from EU, LATAM, Australia, and such a diverse top cut now, which is just super fun to see.
So we'll start with an Earthen Vessel. The best target, of course, would be to discard a Psychic Energy to get more energies out of your deck. As the prize cards do reveal that Mew EX, which was a good pivoting option early on in the game, as well as one of those Frillish are unavailable. And of course, we talked about it last game. That was the saving card for Giovanni, that one of Counter Catcher.
Yeah, the Counter Catcher is at the bottom of the prizes, so if he needs it, it'll get drawn quickly. But the more typical games of this matchup, last game, obviously with the Monkey Dory attacks, were weird, but you don't really go behind in the matchup as Gardevoir pretty often, so it's not too bad of a prize. That Mew being a great late game attacker, and that kind of bailout early game draw, definitely feels bad to be at the top of the prizes, but the second Frillish means it's a little harder to chain Frillishes or Jellicents, so it shouldn't be too impactful overall, but just like slight annoyances here and there.
It looks like debating grabbing a Dark Energy, so we'll see how much that signals strength in terms of the hand. Can, of course, you know, reattach that and try and put together a play where a Budu is KO'd on the following turn, and maybe that's what Giovanni's thinking about as he selects a basic Pokemon here with Nest Ball.
But it looks like grabbing the Frillish, he may be wanting to move into that item lock next turn. However, if he has access to the Latias and a Dark Energy on the active, he's able, even without the Latias, he'll still be able to move 10 damage to the Budu and Oceanic Gloom knock it out. But the Latias would obviously preserve that Dark Energy on the Monkey Dory, which Giovanni would prefer to keep doing that against Budus.
And after being prized, Jack does start this Latias EX, so allowing easy pivot into all Pokemon options. Looks like just has to rely off of Iono, so that Dark Energy from Giovanni's hand will go to the bottom of the deck, a piece that I'm sure he would have liked to keep, but we'll get 6 cards in return from the top of the deck. Same thing with Jack here. Hasn't found any Dreepy and hasn't found any Budu yet, so work is far from over. Let's see what we find in the hand, and hey, look, that gets both of those pieces right there. Thanks, Buddy Poffin.
Yeah, Buddy Poffin. So many decks are playing it. Gardevoir used to play a ton of them, but not as much now as they keep going down in roll. It's now only playing 2, but really just setting up Jack's board. I believe he already has a Dreepy in hand, so I imagine we'll see Budu and a second Dreepy here. But one of the issues with having this Latias in play and benching the Monkey Dory so aggressively is your board looks really weak. Only 1 Duskull and 2 Dreepy. It's going to be hard for him to make those big board wiping plays against Giovanni, only having access to 1 Dusclops each turn.
Yeah, and I wonder if Monkey Dory would be that Pokemon that could possibly be omitted in this spot. You know, when your opponents got a start like this, they can pretty actively just avoid putting damage onto your board if you want to use Budu. So, yeah, as you mentioned, the board space is pretty tight, and there's no copies of something like Professor Turo in this deck. So once a Pokemon is down into play, it's there unless it gets knocked out, or, you know, that's really the only way. It could just stay in play and kind of be a bench sitter and not provide a lot of value. You never want that in the Pokemon TCG.
Absolutely, and especially against a deck like Gardevoir where they have Screamtail, so even if you promote it, they can just ignore it and keep knocking out these more impactful Pokemon on the bench and wait till they need to win the game to use Adrenabrate on this Budu and then knock out this Monkey Dory, for example. Just leaving these sitters on the board means it's just going to be a lot weaker and not as much pressure is going to be applied onto Giovanni.
And does find the Dark Energy, so now if Giovanni wants to, he could knock out this Budu by using that Adrenabrate ability first and then retreating that Dark Energy off, not leaving any counters on Jack's board, and importantly, making it hard for that Budu to chain next turn as well.
Yeah, also going for an Iono, it seemed like he wanted to debate it a bit, as his hand was really strong. I believe I saw a Rare Candy, a Gardevoir, and Secret Box, but decided to just play it, try to find a Ralts, which he does, which is incredibly good under this item lock, difficult to do sometimes, but having this threat of the Candy Gardevoir next turn, since it's also not easy for Jack to reestablish his Budu, is going to put Giovanni into a pretty good spot.
Here for Jack, no items being played. Oceanic Gloom, the attack for a turn. Does find a Dusclops, so that's an available option. But there's really nothing else working in this hand. Just some energy cards and a couple of Jamming Tower, and it looks like Giovanni may just have the opportunity to pop off this turn in terms of items.
Absolutely. It looks like Jack actually has some good options for next turn with the Dragapult EX and Dusknoir, but this turn right now, his board hasn't developed much further, just an energy attach and a single recon directive, no supporter played. Maybe benching the second Duskull, as we mentioned, but the issue with that is now you're not threatening another Budu without using a Curse Blast.
Yeah, those Curse Blasts are just going to slowly keep adding to that prize league that Giovanni has. The Budus are easy targets if they ever come down again. And yeah, it's just going to be a pass over. And this is a huge opportunity if Giovanni could pop off. And look at that hand. That is insane. Is there enough Psychic Energy, though, Piper, for this Screamtail to maybe target something like that Dracloak on the bench?
It looks like there's only 1 Psychic Energy in discard, so it's up to Giovanni now to discard some more energies if he wants to go for that Screamtail, while also being careful that Jack isn't able to countercatcher up that Guardy and also trap it for a few turns if there's no energies with Budu. And yeah, knocking out this 1 Dracloak gets rid of all the draw and all the energy off Jack's board and puts Giovanni in a great position where Jack may be reliant on using this Curse Blast to knock out the Screamtail just to get bailed off the prize cards.
Yeah, would need 3 energy regardless, so it depends on if there's a Monkey Dory as well. But yeah, without that, would be in an awkward spot. You've got to really debate if it's worth the risk of taking Dracloak out and making it so you would be essentially a turn or 2 ahead regardless.
Yeah, the nice thing is if you take that knockout, then you're able to just kind of knock out those Dusclopses and Duskulls as they get set up, as your Screamtail isn't always pressured a ton, but Giovanni going straight in with a Psychic Embrace. Potentially having a Dark Energy in something like the Professor Turo scenario. Yeah, there's a Night Stretcher. moving the damage here means that he'll be able to knock out the Dracloak.
Trying to see if there's a way to... Yes, does have the
Professor
Turo. Wow, look at that. So is going to leave this Gardevoir with no energies on it, only the energy in the Screamtail, and a smart optimization here from Giovanni is first promoting this Gardevoir EX into the active spot.
Yeah, this will allow him to get that extra 1 damage to knock out the Dusclopses on the next turn or any new Dracloaks that come into play. And otherwise, he wouldn't have enough damage to knock those out in the coming turns, and with no energies in discard, it could get trapped due to an Itchy Pollen.
So here we go. Big shift here. Giovanni now the one getting aggressive in game number 2, targeting the only Dracloak, and wow, Jack is sitting on absolutely nothing in the hand. Full 4-card bricks.
Yeah, it's looking like he's going to have to use either Dusclops or Dusknoir to Curse Blast, knocking out either the Screamtail or Monkey Dory, and just hope to get something off the prizes. But looking at his prizes, there's an Ultra Ball and Night Stretcher, but those are close to the top. He's not going to find those. And yeah, Curse Blast, knocking out that Screamtail. But these give the energies back to Giovanni if he needs to move the Gardevoir ever. So now there's not really a Gardevoir trap option.
And could possibly just safely promote this Gardevoir if he wants to. And I think it's debating that. There's really no risk to putting Gardevoir EX up into the active spot.
Yeah, the only thing is then you have to put 40 more damage on it to retreat it, and then it could potentially be in a spot where Blood Moon Ursaluna is able to knock it out later. So just want to be careful of that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, there is always that risk of another Dusclops. There is also the Maractus, which was pointed up, and that would be even more of a reason to promote the Gardevoir instead of the Monkey Dory as well.
For sure. Although Maractus is pretty bad at trapping the Monkey Dories with the damage moving back and the Mind Bend preventing it from consistently attacking.
And it's just going to be a pass back over, so now Giovanni, if anything, is even happier than he was in the previous turn. Those energies are freed up, and while the Screamtail is gone, it means that there is no threat of a Phantom Dive, not just next turn, but the following turn as well.
Yeah, and Giovanni at 3 prizes, taking at least 1 this turn, potentially more, having a Lily's Determination now, looking for another Night Stretcher to get that Screamtail back and knock out probably this Duskull or even the Dreepies at this point, just limit the draw Jack can have.
Even a Dark Energy here would allow this Duskull to just be KO'd from 2 Adrenabrain abilities, and then Miracle Force would put Giovanni just a single prize card away from advancing to the finals.
Absolutely. These games have been kind of pretty bad for Jack. I mean, he's been drawing really rough, but last game he was able to put up a bit more of a fight with all the energy attaches, but now Giovanni, with no Budu, was able to get the Candy Guardy and just get to such a dominating lead.
So just double checking the discard pile, seeing what pieces are available.
Brings a Screamtail to the front, so may have something like another Night Stretcher or Super Odd.
Just debating the options. It looks like is sitting on an Ultra Ball, so can search the deck out for a Pokemon, but yeah, has that Night Stretcher, so immediately is going to be able to retreat this Gardevoir out, but importantly did not find any more Psychic Energy, so that's still an option to be noted. We're going to go ahead and target this Duskull with the 3 damage counters and using that Roaring Scream to KO Dreepy, and all of a sudden Giovanni is threatening game next turn.
Yeah, just down to 2 prizes, but Jack top decks the Lily's Determination, only for 6 though, since he used the Curse Blast to knock out the Screamtail last turn. Will it be enough, or is it just too little too late?
It might be the latter, Piper. The doors are slowly shutting. There's going to be no Phantom Dive threatened on this turn, and next turn, if this Screamtail does not move out of the active spot, it can just take out the only Dracloak potentially in play, and you've got to wonder for Jack what he's thinking in this spot, and even what 6 cards could bail him out if he could handpick each one from the deck.
Absolutely. I think it starts with a way to evolve this Duskull, potentially a Luminous Energy to even heal it as well, a Dracloak, maybe something with the Blood Moon Ursaluna. There is a world where you could move 30 damage to this Gardevoir with your Monkey Dory, or just use Dusclops to damage it a bit more, and Blood Moon Ursaluna for no energy will knock out the Gardevoir. So I think something along those lines is what Jack would need, but then the Screamtail is still just so threatening.
Yeah, take those 6 cards and throw them out the window, Piper. This is absolutely nothing in this spot. No energy cards, no Dracloak, no way to search out Dracloak, and Giovanni just has game on board if Jack is unable to move the Screamtail out of the active spot.
Yeah, and at this point, it's like, what can Jack even do? I mean, he can Itchy Pollen the Gardevoir maybe for a turn. I mean, Giovanni's down his Professor Turo scenario, but then you lose to a Dark Energy, just Monkey Dory knock out the Budu and the Duskull.
Seems better than just passing and losing on board.
Sure.
So you've got to play to your outs, especially down 1-0. But if there's no counter catcher, the game will be written. It looks like Jack is going to continue to play things out, play to his outs. He saw the comeback in game number 1 on Giovanni's side. We'll see if that same scenario can exist here.
Yeah, definitely a bit inspired there, but it's not looking great. I don't think he has any way for any stage 1s to come down this turn. So even if he survives this one turn, Giovanni can either knock out this Budew or this Duskull, likely the latter as it could evolve or get healed. And then next turn, he could just use one more Adrenabrain to knock out the Budew, or if the Gardevoir gets KO'd, just Screamtail knock it out.
The lights are beginning to dim here for Jack. Giovanni can smell victory. He can taste it. Is there a counter catcher or a way to bring this up? There is, so not all hope is lost just yet, but that Munkidori with the Dark Energy just still providing so much relief for these Pokemon. Gardevoir EX comes into the active spot. Itchy Pollen is used. Can Giovanni find a way to get this Dark Energy into play? That will be all she wrote here in this game. Artisan's a good start. It does get rid of that jamming tower. There's not going to be many Pokemon here that can, really help Giovanni in this side. No Rule Box Pokemon, and all these non-Rule Box Mons are really just good for setup, like that second roll.
Yeah, just trying to thin the deck, because I believe he has a Lily's Determination in hand, so trying to take out as many non-Dark Energy targets as possible, as he can't use those Earthen Vessels under Itchy Pollen. So I imagine we'll see him play some of the tools he has in his hand, and just try to win the game this turn. But even if he whiffs this turn, it seems like there's not much Jack can do with this time that he'd be giving.
Yeah, another Dark Energy would just win the game on the spot. Even if Munkidori was KO'd, there's just too much damage on these other Pokemon on the board. And additionally, going down to one prize card would just mean that you can't use Dusknoir or Dusclops anymore. So Giovanni can still win this turn, but either way, in such a commanding spot.
Yeah, for sure. And this really just speaks to the power of the Gardevoir deck. It has so many ways to function. It can play for that Oceanic Gloom to just lock your opponent's board down, or it can start to turn into an aggressive Screamtail deck, just picking apart all of your engine Pokemon, and all those Pokemon that can help you get back into the game, they're just gone.
So 6 cards here. Giovanni in the absolute driver's seat. Going ahead, not even looking in the back rear view mirror. He can, essentially already see that trophy, or that medal rather, with his name on it. 6 cards here. Can he find the Darkness Energy to close things out? He cannot, and he is under item block, but like you said, still going to be content taking the KO. Can even draw into a prize. It's not going to help in this spot. It is the Psychic Energy, I believe, here.
That is nice because you can attach to the Gardevoir, so next turn you can just attach again and retreat.
Excuse me.
Oh, Mew EX.
It is the Mew EX. Sometimes shows up a little bit differently. But yeah, then again, is going to go for this here. It's actually an interesting choice to go after the Budew instead of the Duskull, since that Duskull can evolve. Yeah,
it can evolve out of range or get healed out of range from the Munkidori on Jack's side. But even then, now that the Gardevoir is... Actually, yeah, the Gardevoir's at 30 damage, so it's completely out of range of the Blood Moon. Jack would need some crazy play where he gusts up another Pokemon, uses Hawlucha and Adrenabrain just to knock out this Gardevoir. And then there's just a Screamtail on board to win the game. And Jack is eyeing up the Maractus as Giovanni is down that Professor Turf scenario, but it feels like he's just waiting to lose. Giovanni's eventually going to find all of those energies.
Just, essentially clawing at what remains of this mountain, this big victory he's trying to find for himself. He's really running out of options, trying to do everything he can. Is it this Cactus's last stand to potentially find a way back in? It's going to be the Iono to 1, and Jack still has to find that energy card with currently no Dracloak in play.
Yep, and he needs to find a way to get this Duskull out of range of just one more Munkidori. There's a Luminous Energy, but Giovanni's still winning with a Dark Energy. We would have loved to see a Dusclops as well to completely get it out of range this time.
Yeah, and there's nothing he can do to stop this. Adrenabrain will win the game on the spot next turn. Jack Wong concedes, and Giovanny Sasso is making it to the finals here in Toronto, Ontario.
Yeah, it's amazing to see these young players age up and still continue to dominate. I mean, sometimes people give a bit of flack to the younger divisions, saying they're a little easier, but here we see them dominating in Masters, and it's amazing to see, especially with such an awesome deck like Gardevoir. I mean, it's just a very difficult deck to play. We see these crazy comebacks like in Game 1, where it seemed like it almost lost position for Giovanni, but through Countercatcher, Iono, he was able to get back into the game.